guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP. Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show live stream and podcast with an unexpected item in the bagging area, which is probably not the best way to describe one's beautiful wife who is with me in the studio. Just getting ready now, hair and makeup, all that sort of thing, and soft furnishings I see there on a stage set designed by the great British film director, Terence Austin. We had his consultation on that particular project. She'll be joining us in just a moment. Let me first say good morning to you. Oh, 5 gifts. T-Duck's done it again. Okay, so there are 5 gift memberships up for grabs. I don't know if you're seeing that in the chat. Look, there we go. 5 gifted 5 Good Morning Portugal show memberships. That's what T-Duck has just done. And when he did this a couple of weeks ago, it was for the regulars here. So if you're not a YouTube member and you'd like to be, you can accept graciously, or ungraciously if you want, accept T-Duck's gift there on the screen. Go grab them quick. I'm not sure how you do it. T-Duck, how is it done? And they went very quickly last time to people who've not even said thank you or appeared on the show ever since. But thanks so much, T-Duck, for that. The gifting of 5 monthly memberships, the first month's membership, courtesy of T-Duck. Grab them, Jackie, Antonio, if you're not already members, I don't think you are. And you can also sign up and support the show at gmpvip.com as well, if you'd like to do that. Coach Turner's in this morning. Good morning to you, Coach. More about hit and fartlek later on. Old guy in Europe, stop sniggering, Mrs. M. Bon dia, Gumbers. Feliz dias a todos, como vão? Mr. S also here. Excellent. Are you still in France? Bon dia. Prezado Casal Monson. Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. S, with your quaint and traditional turn of Portuguese phrase there. T-Duck, of course. Bon dia, Alegria Gumper Nation. And Jackie, the humble crafter. Bon dia, Gumpers as well. And Antonio F, how you doing? Bon dia, todos. Como estão? Says Antonio F. And who else has just joined us? Owen. Oh, they've all gone already. How is that possible? They've all. Have you looked it up already?
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
Seriously?
Yeah.
How does that work? Well, let's bring her onto the screen, shall we? She's busy working behind the scenes. There is a high-pitched whine, and I'm not referring to either of us. But I'm going to give you Gumper Dust. I'm going to shower you in Gumper Dust. Oh, there she is. Looking very lovely. How are you?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me back. It's been a long time. I thought maybe I'd done something wrong.
Don't be like that. You're welcome on any time. You've gone on to other things, haven't you? With your great big YouTube channel that you've got now. We're very lucky to have you here, basically.
Well, I mean, it was helpful that I was up working with someone at 7 a.m. this morning. So,
right. Oh, I see. So you're not really here for us. You're up anyway, and you see what I mean.
Do you know what? You know, looking at it's amazing anyone's like listening, because that photo you chose of me in that thumbnail makes me look proper grumpy.
Yeah.
And so so why would anyone show up?
Well, because people are excited to have you here. Look, Bon dia Munsons, say the Blisses. Michael Bliss is there. Loving your videos, Michael. Great to be telling your story, and people can check out. Put the link. Oh, actually, I don't know if you can put this. Send it to me, Michael. Make it easy for me if you will. And I think I can put links on the screen, but I'm not sure viewers can. But check out Michael Bliss Music. Obviously, there. That is the YouTube channel. Is that the one though, Michael, where you're putting out your videos about setting up your studio and your most recent? What was that? Is Small Town Life enough? It wasn't quite that, was it? But you were describing life here in Portugal and addressing some people's concerns, I think, as well. Hello, Mrs. M, says T-Duck as well. And bon dia, Mrs. M. You see, a nice warm welcome. From
That's so lovely. Should I tell you the names of the people that the memberships have gone to?
The memberships are assigned randomly. I have no say who gets them, says T-Duck. And it looks like they've all gone. So who have we got?
HVN or Haven.
Oh, Haven. Yeah. I know that. I've recognized that name. Yeah.
They've got a membership.
Good. Congratulations.
Then, Sergio Pereira, Cadril Darkblade.
Crikey.
Has got a membership. Mario Santana has been gifted.
Cool.
007 has been gifted. And also Laura has been gifted.
Maybe Laura in the Algarve, who was also pleased to see that you were going to be on the show.
Really?
Yes. Now, you're here because we've been meaning to do this a little while. You were with AIMA, weren't you? Formerly SEF in Leiria just recently. And 7 years ago. We can talk about how it's been to be here in Portugal for 7 years.
The process has really changed, I can say.
Right, okay.
Definitely.
All right. So I'd like to know more about that, as I'm sure other people would who are fearful or concerned or anxious about dealing with AIMA. I guess you can only really speak of the Leiria experience and the office there in Leiria. But let's do that as well. About time you came back, Mrs. M. We missed you.
Oh, that's so nice. Thanks,
thank you for adding some class. What? I'm thinking, if I look that way at you, yep. And if you look at me, yes, we've got the cameras around the right way. That's working now. Okay, all right. Enough of that, Barack.
It's a shame about the high-pitched whinge, though. I'm
doing my best.
Can
You're
everyone
only here occasionally? Don't complain.
Can people hear that high-pitched sound, or is that just us?
I think it's local. And we will sort that out. It's just the teething troubles of this new sofa cam, but I think it's working pretty well. Are you happy with it?
It's nice and comfy.
Okay, all right. And the framing, because often you make a fuss about, the lighting's not very good, and I need to be looked down on, not up at, and all these sort of things like that. Okay.
Well, I don't know. I've decided in recent times just to get out and do it, and not worry about so much what I look like.
Right. Very good.
Yeah, it's about time, wasn't it?
Attachment there. Hugh's in as well. Good morning to you, Hugh. How are you this morning? Thank you for joining me most days at midday as well for a Munson moment there.
I love that you're doing that, by the way. Can I just share my appreciation for you?
Yeah,
I really love that.
Anytime.
I was having a chat with Karen Ensley from Ethereal TV, because earlier this year you might have noticed that Carl and I spoke about the fact that we were going to be doing
American TV show.
A show, and one of our shows that we're going to be doing on Ethereal is called The Moment. And it's very much about being in the moment, and we'll have sort of interviews and chats with people. It's going to be a morning show after GMP, and it's going to be live, and it's just to get people back in their bodies and to feel a bit better about life.
Get back in your body.
and what's happened with Ethereal is the launch date has been put back a few times, and so we haven't really got on with it. And Carl is so determined to enjoy being in his body that he is
it sounds so weird when you put it
I know, but kind of really noticing your senses and chilling down, chilling out and relaxing, and appreciating the moment that Carl is doing this daily kind of slow.
It's a mini mindfulness.
Meditative and it's
exercise.
lovely.
But I don't want to make too much of a big deal of it. I think it should be really sort of every day and
it is
normal.
You've done a really lovely job of it, and so I just wanted to sort of recognize you and appreciate you for that.
Oh, you have two streams running simultaneously. That sounds like a Zen riddle, doesn't it?
There
were two streams running simultaneously. One uphill, one downhill.
One bag and a passport. Can you hear that? Or is it just us?
I think it's fine. Top producer T Duck is all over it.
Okay, that's good.
Sounds
feedback. Good. That's good.
Okay. So there is their feedback or not, James? That's a slightly better description than the one you just gave, which is, your first comment, good morning to you, James, is if you've been able to deal with AIMA, then you're very lucky. That's true.
Yeah.
I can't hear, but it might be death. That's cheerful, isn't it? But I mean, that's just the tone of the times, really, isn't it? Calm down, everybody. Okay. Nobody can hear it. So
okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Right,
that's good. And we can stop now.
Thank you. No sound. So no sound at all. I think that might be local. Otherwise, everybody would be saying, Carl, we can't hear you, or you sound like a chipmunk, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Gav, great to meet Gav. Why I was out a lot this weekend. It was
you had a right old,
boozy weekend.
Boozy kind of sort of free off the leash kind of weekend, didn't you?
I did. Off the leash. There's one way of getting back in the body, isn't it? And an appropriate reply is simply thank you. Thank you.
Oh, well, I mean, thank yous might be in response to the free memberships that T-Duck is.
Thank you, T-Duck. Thank you. Just thank you. Louisa from Coach Turner as well. Pleased to see you. Big capital letters there. And so nice to see Mrs. M. You see, we must do this more often. I want to let people know that if you start your expat life in Madeira, your bureaucratic tasks are more easily completed here, and then moved to other locations.
Ooh,
That's a nice
what a
little
good
hack,
top
isn't it?
tip. Yeah, it's amazing.
Very nice. As sweet as Madeira cake itself, which probably means more to British people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if Americans eat Madeira cake. Simon Ballard is here. Are you going to eventually talk about AIMA or just waffle on? I think I'm just going to waffle on. Simon Ballard.
Do you actually know Simon Ballard?
No, I don't. No.
Oh, so this is somebody that's kind of like
But
trolling
I mean, if someone comes on and says, "Are you going to waffle on?" When I'm waffling on, I tend to waffle on a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's kind of in
are you going to stick around, or are you going to go off in a hump?
Yeah. I mean, it's a chat show predominantly, isn't it?
Yeah,
and it's everyone get together. It's not one of these 5-minute, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about AIMA in 5 minutes.
Newsflash, James, it's not my first. I got blocked by somebody yesterday. So not my first, but it's
definitely not your first
badge of honor, isn't it? And it's weaving, not waffling.
Oh, okay.
Technically speaking, I love waffles, says James. Nope. To Louisa's acknowledgement and compliment. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. Right.
Should we talk about AIMA then?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
We've got to get Simon Ballard really hot under the collar.
Oh, Simon, first. I'm so sorry.
Why?
Well, we're kind of making an example now.
Well, you stick your head above the parapet like that. Simon, we will. My aim is to help people and make life easier here in Portugal. So.
But like the first 5 minutes is usually, or 10 minutes is usually spent like acknowledging people and saying hello.
Yes, being giddy.
Yeah.
And so a couple of photos saying hi. Simon, how about a question? That would help us actually. Where are you in your process? What help is it you need specifically? Because we might start talking about AIMA and it might be nothing to do with what you're interested in.
Yes.
So give us a bit of a guide there on what you need to know and what how'd you tune in this morning?
Yeah.
Anna, got to show Anna's photos because I forgot yesterday. Hi, you two. Nice to see you both here.
Hi, Anna.
And this is what we love to do, share the beautiful life experiences of people here in Portugal, just back from Sweden. This is the Sweden-Portugal Anna, of course, as you can see there. And look at this. Isn't that a beautiful view from her new
I can't
lodgings?
actually see it.
Oh, you can't?
I can now.
Oh, okay. That's not it. That's next. That's tomorrow's lunch. No, that's last week's lunch. Okay, what's I doing there? And a drink as well. A lovely sunset drink. What was that? Could be water, couldn't it? But I hope it was maybe a gin and tonic or something lovely like that for you, Anna, as well. And you sent me a third picture, which I think that might be lovely, as well. That's a beautiful picture, isn't it?
That's really lovely.
Very nice. I think that's yours as well. Yeah, it is, as I can see from the signature on the bottom there. So thank you, Anna. Welcome back to Portugal. How's it all going? Right. 7 years we're celebrating here in Portugal, and well, we just did, didn't we? And it's been a while since we've been able to get you on the show to talk about it. September is our anniversary, and marked by a trip to AIMA. So yes. I think it wasn't 7 years ago that we first went there, was it? It must have been maybe 6 years.
It was just after I'd given birth to Solly, so about 6 years.
Yeah. Okay. So, and it was, maybe you could describe that for us, that first visit. Well, we were all there, weren't we? It was pretty stressful.
The first visit, we weren't getting the cards. I don't know the technical words for everything, so you might need to sub in for me a little bit.
We were getting our crews, what's called a crew, when before all the Brexit conclusion, we were treated like other members of the EU, and you could just rock up and get your within 90 days, I think it is, you had to show up at a local government office and ask for your permission to stay, which is that stage. But still, we tried to do that at a number of other offices.
Well, I mean, the fact is, we couldn't just rock up and do that. And it took us over a year to actually get that sorted in the first place. I think we got a temporary one, didn't we? Thanks to our Portuguese landlord in
That's right. Yeah. And then we moved and we needed to change it, didn't we?
Yeah.
And the very first government office we went in, they had no idea what we were talking about.
Yeah. And so the last time I was in the Laria office was after I'd given birth about a month before. And I had a horrible water infection.
Ew.
But I had to go. We had this date. We'd been sort of sent around loads of different government offices, and we were really kind of panicking that we weren't going to get it done in time, and we were just sent backwards and forwards between two offices. And so I went in like this kind of awful kind of hot flush, feeling terrible, and And there was a bit of a breakdown of communication between the people. And in the end, I think the head of the office just said, oh, let's just sign it, because they'd seen us back and forth. They knew a bit of the history. And in the end, they just said, oh,
two children, babe in arms.
Yeah. And they just waved us through.
And that's when was that our first experience of how a smartphone meets the Calzada?
Yes, it was.
Right.
I was so nervous, and I had Carl's old iPhone, and where I was like so jumpy, I dropped it on the floor and smashed it up.
And that moment when you lift your phone from the floor, hoping that it's okay, it's like it's now a mosaic on the screen. Okay.
The first of many smashes.
It was, yeah. It's very unforgiving. The old.
I mean, that's the first thing to do, isn't it? When you get to Portugal, is get
a screen protector.
Yes,
okay, first tip from Mrs. M. There, get some screen protection for your phone. The flooring and pavements are very unforgiving when it comes to meeting mobiles. Yeah, so it was pretty stressful, but we did it, didn't we?
Yeah, and we had our paperwork to keep us going for a short while.
Yeah,
and then in that time, the cards came out, and I can't remember what they're called because I haven't paid any attention to
post-Brexit thing where we needed to change from paper to residency cards, which we've both now done.
Yes,
some while after we imagined it might occur.
Yeah, I mean, you were a lot more optimistic about doing it. I was very recalcitrant. I don't like I don't you know, I've got no problems with giving my fingerprints away and like iris prints, you know, but there was something just felt a little bit awkward, you know, about the idea of digital ID.
Or you were resisting.
Yeah, I felt a little bit of resistance, and so Carl went ahead and got his.
Yes.
And I just dilly-dallied and didn't do anything until we really just needed to.
Yes, which is how a lot of people approach bureaucracy and administration.
Yeah, and so what happened for me, and I'm sure it's same for quite a few people who aren't quite, you know, they know they've got to take a step, but they're not feeling that good about it.
Yes.
You know, you make a step forward. So I got onto the website, changed my email address and my password or whatever, and then like many months passed, I got locked out, couldn't remember my password, and we went through that. And then there was this like obvious errors going on between the systems, because I think a lot of your viewers have had, you know, they've gone on to the website and got like left in these loops.
Yeah, you can
where you follow their instructions, but you just get in a hanging loop.
Yes.
And so then I got caught in a hanging loop, and then I didn't bother for about 6 months because I thought, I've got too many other things going on.
Meantime, I was getting telephone calls which came up as suspected spam. And one day I actually answered it, and I had a shock of my life because I said, you know, the phones are pretty good, aren't they, with that facility? Suspected spam. It's like, if you don't want to answer the phone anyway, I mean, you know, there are people who love being on the phone. There are people who don't. I don't really like talking on the phone. I much prefer to message.
And talking on a show.
Yeah, true. It doesn't bear any. It's not, you know, it's not logical, but it's just a habit, I suppose. And I much prefer text to talking. And so it's a real relief when it comes up on the screen, suspected spam. It's like, I definitely don't have to answer this one, and not go through a sort of mental exercise of shouldn't I? And then, but one day I did. Sometimes I think it's just out of curiosity. It's like, well, what are they going to try and sell me today? Or maybe I should answer this to see if it is a scam thing that I should be aware of and let people know about. And it turns out it was AIMA on the other end of the phone line, which for several calls before had come up as suspected spam on the screen.
Yeah. And
I answered it, and it was a really nice guy from AIMA who said, yeah, I'm calling about your wife and the whole process of why. Oh, they must have had my number instead of yours.
Yeah,
I guess for that.
I mean, I did send them a couple of emails, sort of describing the process I've been through and saying, look, I've got caught in this loop. I don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were responding to that. I mean, again, the very first email address I sent, got it bounced back. So, you know, when I was following the email addresses on the website, it took me down, you know, a bit of a mystery pathway.
Yes.
But they caught up with us in a really cool and kind way.
Yeah. I'm really wanting to help.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do next. And it was a little bit of a fix, like a software fix, where it says, SEF, just put in AIMA, keep everything else the same. And it was like, it sounded a bit kind of Heath Robinson and a bit odd in a funny sort of way, but it was, you know, intentionally or the intention of it was to be helpful and supportive. And I really got a sense of that to get us over the line to do it. And from there on, it was pretty straightforward, wasn't it? I was told what to do. You were able to get back in, set an appointment, and boom.
Well, yeah, I got back in and sort of clicked the button to request an appointment, and I heard from them the same day.
Yes.
And they just said, okay, like when would suit you? And literally within I think half a week, they were able to, like the same day they came back and offered me something literally within a week.
I couldn't believe
just
it.
Under a week.
Yeah, please go here and set an appointment.
And
so it's not going to be that easy.
I'd even in my email said, oh, please can I have Leria, which is really close to us, because I'd heard so many horror stories about people having to go to Braga or somewhere else. And I was thinking, I can't do that. You know, we've got too much going on. And, you know, they just literally came back. It was as if we had some kind of fairy godmother.
Wonderful.
Prancing around with a wand and helping us through the process.
Well, it was me, actually.
It was you. And then the hilarity of it is it was exactly the same office I'd been to 6 years ago. And weirdly enough, I had a high temperature and the sweat on the day.
Spooky Hitchcock type music in the background.
Amazing. And so I sat in exactly the same desk. But everything had really changed and moved on. So like there were lots of young staff, lots of new staff. All of them were speaking English or at least French, you know, like they were speaking a couple of languages. And, you know, whereas when I first went, I had to pull a ticket and wait for my appointment. I literally, as I walked in an hour early, because we wanted to be super prepared, the security guard came to me and said, oh, what's your name, please? Can I have your passport? They saw that I was booked in for 2, but said, oh, you're here early. Here, we can do you now. So
it's incredible, isn't it?
I didn't have to wait at all. I was literally ushered to a chair. They didn't question me about why I had a gap in
why it taken so long? Or
but you know, I said, you know, I apologize, and she said, it's okay. And she was just, more than anything, it felt like they just wanted to process the whole thing. And then I was asked to go and stand in front of a big machine, put my fingers on in a certain way.
To go and stand in the corner.
Well, it was in the corner.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and you know, I put the right fingers in the right bits.
What?
Well, like there were these little pads to put your fingers on, so they could get your fingerprints.
Just to clarify, then, fingerprints. When T-Duck went, they made him sit on the copy machine. Is that not correct?
I don't know, but all I did,
they just do that in Lisbon, I think.
I think I just put. I don't even know which finger it was. It wasn't even all fingernail. You know, I thought I was going to have to do all fingerprints, but it was just maybe my index fingers or, you know, and then the trickiest part was signing my name.
Why had you got nervous?
Well, I signed my maiden name and had to start again. Yeah, then I did my married name, but where you're not seeing it come up.
Past life regression on the spot.
Where yeah, it's funny because I've had your name for like over a decade, but
yeah, I'm not used to
in that moment of feeling like, you know, slightly like a naughty girl, or, you know, like I'm having to do something official. It just reminded me of before I've met you.
Before you were made an honest woman, as it were.
But yeah, so you're using a stylus on a machine to sign your name, and where I can usually use a ballpoint pen, like it doesn't normally.
Really, it's like when you sign in for a parcel. Isn't it?
I honestly look like I was writing with my foot or something. You know, when my card comes through. Yeah. It's going to look really messy, but it's a bit like, good enough.
You know, when you sign for the post office or Amazon packages,
just like that.
And I imagine what the people who I've been a postman, I've not been an Amazon delivery driver, but they must look at these signatures when someone just draws their finger across the screen and go, that is not your signature, but I haven't got time to stand here and make you do another one.
Well, I was made to sign it several times.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, it took about 5 or 6.
To make it look like another one, or
to make it look like my actual signature, which they had a copy of.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good of them, because that could have been a whole spiral of other bureaucratic problems later down the line. Okay, so that's good. And I got a message from you. I'm done. Come and pick me up. And I was expecting to be having lunch with the kids and to take ages, but you were done really within minutes.
It was so easy. Right. I mean, they really have finessed the system. And you know, gone are the days, you know, like when we first arrived, you know, we went from office to office.
Yes.
And there were these, I don't want to describe them as bulldogs, but there were almost people who were gatekeepers
yes.
who were absolutely there to like not help and possibly to make you feel uncomfortable. I remember particularly feeling that when we were getting our driving licenses exchanged. But now it's just so easy. But that was the office that I was in, and knowing Portugal in the way that I do, I suspect that it really does change from office to office.
That's true. That is true. But also, I think it's project to project, and the sense I get of the Brexit paperwork and the post-Brexit situation is it's being handled as a project by a team who are giving specific instructions to offices around the country.
Right.
And so my experience was very good. I had to go up to Porto, but it was very, very good when I got there. Very quick, very efficient, and got my card now. I only got 5 years. That's another mystery.
Oh, yeah. I've got 10 years.
Didn't you? Right, okay.
And everyone else I've spoken to recently have got 5 years. Even people that have been to the same office have got 5 years. And they're like, how did you get 10? I'll ask
Tig, because Tig's on next Monday.
I wonder if it's because I'm younger. No disrespect to the people I've spoken to. I wonder if they offer 10.
I am offended.
Up until a certain age, and then 5 after, maybe.
Okay. All right.
I mean, that's the only difference.
Well, you'd think that, wouldn't you? It's like, well, this old giffer, he's not going to make 10 years, so we'll give him 10 years anyway. Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't know.
If you've got a longevity, they give you a longer residency. Is that the theory?
Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe they've just changed. Maybe they've just changed.
Simon is still here. I became a resident.
I'm glad you're still here, Simon.
I became a resident of Portugal before the 31st of December 2020. And I want my daughter, who holds a British passport and was 15 at the time of Brexit, to join me. What documents do we need to submit to AIMA? That sounds like a family reunification, Simon, and that's a specific process which I think is fraught with difficulties. Now, we're only talking of our experience as human beings in the process. We're not giving advice on how you should do it.
What day have you got Tig on? Because isn't that when
he's been here half an hour just to get that answer.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I can speak of what I went with, which was my passport.
Yeah, but he wants to get his daughter signed up.
I mean, what
15 at the time.
Has she already got some documents?
Yeah, but he's a resident. It sounds like she isn't, or she might be a temporary resident, and you're looking to make her a full-on resident. Whatever the answer is to that, Simon, we can't give you an answer, a professional answer, but I can help you with people you could speak to. Tig, as you say, Tig will be joining us. Tig's the expert for Brits, and she'll be on next Monday on the show. She's always on the first Monday of the month. And the Dream Team on a Thursday night, come and ask Gilda of EI about what you need to do. But I think that's a family reunification process, but I'm still not entirely sure. Might need a bit more information, but we can definitely point you in the right direction, Simon. So thank you for being here this morning. You can't, hold on a minute, you can't get the card swapped. Some officers didn't understand it needed. Oh, you can get the card swap. Some officers didn't understand it needed to be 10. Okay, wow. So I can go back and get it for 10 years. And how long have you waited for your card? Because you haven't got it just yet. It's still in the post, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was literally 2 weeks ago tomorrow. They said it would be arriving in 2 weeks' time.
Okay.
And that was another change because, like, you had to go home after and wait for it to be announced online so you could pay for it online. That's
right. That's been finessed as well.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So, I mean, I was able to pay for my card there and then, which I think has probably speeded it up. Yeah. What I'll do is, James, I'll remind Carl to announce that I've got my card when it comes. Yeah. I'm expecting it sometime this week.
Yeah. Simon, drop me a line if you want to hasten that process and you need some help. That's my WhatsApp number on the screen there, 913-590-303. You're very welcome. Okay, so you're still waiting because that's the thing, isn't it? It's like we're talking like it's done.
But I mean, I do have like an official receipt to say that it's on its way.
Okay, all right, and so you can carry that and show that to show that you are in the process and in much better shape. I mean, do you feel better for doing it? I know you had some sort of reluctance because you.
Yeah, I was reluctant, but I mean, I'm a bit of a punk, Gen X, and I don't,
You thought you were sticking it to the man by delaying the process.
No, I was just very cautious about everything, because. Oh, I don't know. I don't want to get political at all, but
here we go. She's about to get political.
Well, no, not really. But when I see changes that are going on in the EU and regulations and stuff, then maybe not exactly how I envisage my life being.
Yeah.
I want to live in the way that feels as free as possible. I mean, the way I see it is we're taxpayers. We've now set up a business here. we are doing lots of great things, but I don't really like governments that are heavy-handed.
Yeah, and you thought the biometric level of data collection and registration was that?
I have some reticence about that level of, not because I've got anything to be ashamed of, not because I'm a criminal or anything like that, but just because I don't, I think our personal data, like when it gets really personal, should be ours. Yes. I don't think, I think that level of intrusion into people's lives could be manipulated.
Oh yeah,
and used against us very easily.
Yes, yeah. And then when you see that there's been a cyber attack on government websites,
exactly.
and servers, you think, well, okay, yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of play in the space between the systems, as they were coming in and going out. And but actually, what I realize I have more freedom in being able to leave Portugal. So like in the previous few years, I've not actually like been interested in leaving Portugal at all.
Yes.
However, my parents are getting older, and I don't want to. Your mum's getting older,
yes,
and it might be helpful to be able to go back to the UK.
So a compromise you're willing to make for freedom of movement according to the rules that exist.
Yeah, right. and I think life is always, a set of compromises, isn't
Indeed,
it? We decide what's right for us.
Yes.
And some people are really comfortable and confident to be all in.
Yeah.
And I'm not, but maybe, and again, maybe it's a sign of growing up. I haven't felt like I could advocate for myself. And of course, where I feel like I can't advocate for myself, that makes me less confident to stand up and say, oh, look, here I am.
I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure you're not alone, because there are other people, aren't there, of the school of life. You've got nothing to hide. You've got nothing to worry about. Give all your data and details.
But I mean, I've heard absolute disgusting stories of oppression and stuff that can be abused.
Yes.
So it took me a while to get to this stage, and maybe it's because I'm maturing a little bit and being less jippy, and just accepting that we are all like living in this world, and
compromises are made.
Yeah,
balances are struck.
But I haven't been confident about it, and I was really thinking in terms of our children. If I had to go back to the UK for something,
yes.
If I got detained or wasn't able
to come back. That's coming back in though, isn't it? Because you got a British passport, but you were,
Okay. I just thought, I mean, it's less for you, love, though obviously it's important, for me to be able to get. What do you mean
it's less for me?
Well, it's more for the children, because, I don't want to get into any legal.
You have them to think about.
Difficulties,
Yes,
so.
Fair enough. Okay, so there you go. That's your experience of AIMA and SEF, which generally speaking has improved over the years and was pretty exemplary and as good as it could be.
It was absolutely exemplary. I felt terrible on that day, and it was so smooth.
For health reasons, not because of that.
It was seamless, really, really easy.
Okay, so thank you, AIMA, formerly SEF at Leiria. Thank you, Portugal, for having us as residents. I think we can say as well.
Also,
we're delighted to be here.
Thank you for you interviewing Tig, having Tig on your show regularly, because and thank you as well.
I put the dossier together, didn't I?
Yeah, I mean,
talking of fairy godmothers.
Yeah, you were a fairy godmother. Like Carl got all the evidence that I needed together for me.
Yeah.
In a lovely little folder.
Me of all people.
I know.
And there you were able to just put the dossier on the desk. It's like case closed. I have everything I need here.
Yeah.
And that's how you need to go, by the way. Take everything you possibly can. I think everyone knows this now, but I mean, take everything you can in a well-organized folder. So when they say, what have you got, your birth certificate? Have you got your great grandmother's DNA swab? You've got it with you in the little folder or whatever that you'd be carrying with you. So and you didn't need it all in the end.
No,
but I guess you felt confident that you had it all if you needed it.
Yeah, it was all very good.
Yeah, very good
and seamless.
Any questions? I'd like to
and I should say as well, like we've been setting up our business, haven't we?
Oh Good Morning Portugal LDA was signed for last Friday. These are all big milestones. Aren't they?
I know. It's funny that it's taken us 7 years to get like where we are right now, and I guess we've been doing this. I guess it's been taking us a bit longer because we're also raising 3 children as well, and also 2 like home businesses as well. So it takes a lot longer. But
2 dogs.
No, I'm not so worried about them. But the whole process that we've been going through with Raquel has been really easy as well.
She's
we were expecting to wait quite a long time to get the business all set up and signed and sealed and delivered. And
Yeah.
that's also speeding
And then
up.
suddenly it's like, okay, that's done. You've got 2 days to pay. It's like,
Yes.
what?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's all starting to move very, very quickly.
Yeah. Man in the Minho is here. Tony Time. Bon
Hi,
dia.
Tony.
Morning greetings from a warm and sunny day in the Minho. Del Safeira, thank you for being here, Antonio. And a few comments. And I think we've helped Simon. Hope we have. Do come back, Simon, for more waffle.
Yeah, sorry
and
about the
fun
waffle.
in the mornings. Our long journey to live in Portugal just got real. The wood for the carport arrived this morning.
Oh,
Last
wow,
part of the
that's
build.
so cool.
Yeah, the crowning glory, perhaps. Then I need to get a new address. Yes, a new address. So the house is real, but you need the conceptual address for it so that you can change that and register that with AIMA, which might take a while. You say, congratulations on that, Wayne. That's fantastic. Good news. That's the other channel there. I think Michael may have messaged me. Then you've got to keep in touch with the Blisses and their beautiful music. They're an amazing couple.
Yes.
They really are very talented. So please keep in touch with them either directly or via our Portugal playlist group on Facebook as well. Bev is here too. Good morning to you, Bev. Lovely to see you here in the chat this morning as well. Can't find your comment right now. And yes, that was a gin and tonic moving into my new rental place. All picked from Cartera in Portugal for my 4th year now. Well done. 4 years for you. So more generally speaking then, 7 years here. It's flown by, isn't it?
It really has.
How have your feelings towards Portugal changed over that time? How are you feeling about Portugal now?
Well, it just feels like home. I mean, occasionally I get a little bit sticky, not knowing how to ask for something that I need, but it all feels achievable now.
Yes.
I mean, I don't really worry about most interactions because I know enough Portuguese to do the bits that I need to do.
Yeah.
We just feel really at home.
That was the horror, wasn't it, in the residency situation? Like, what I'd like to be a resident here and I can't speak your language is such an embarrassing position.
It really
I mean,
is.
Of course you can't.
Yeah.
But it's really embarrassing and vulnerable, isn't it, being in that situation?
I mean, I remember the horror that we had when we first arrived because I'd lived in France for 5 years and I could speak the language. And so my experience of being in a foreign country was that I felt quite integrated, or I felt like I could, interact. And so when we first arrived in Portugal, not speaking a word of it, that was terrifying. I mean, because, a lot of people that watch your show here, they've been planning their moves for quite a while, haven't they? And they maybe have learnt the language, but we went through our whole conversion in about 2 months, didn't we?
Yeah.
From start to finish with. And back then there weren't these shows that we could listen to.
Well, that's changed a lot, hasn't it? I mean,
we literally just was following what was in the Pure Portugal group, wasn't it?
It
on Facebook.
It seems almost prehistoric, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There are so many more Facebook groups and YouTube channels now than there were 7 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, everything is quite easy by comparison. But yeah, it does just feel like home. What I really like is when we go inland. And then we're not the we're the only foreigners. I love that feeling of going inland and feeling like we're actually in Portugal, because where we're on the Silver Coast, just there are so many expats, and I don't mean that as
just how it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't mean it. I'm not running down expats or anything. But to me, it doesn't necessarily feel like we're in another country. So I really like the experience of going to Leiria. Actually, there were significantly fewer expats. Everyone was speaking Portuguese around us, and that felt more like home. I don't know, it felt more like the experience that I was enjoying when we first arrived.
And this is the thing, isn't it? Of course, on one level I want to speak the language, and on another level I love being a foreigner. And part of that is not being able to understand what's going on. And you can't have it both ways, can you?
Well, what I really like now is, if we sit in a cafe and the news are on in the background, I love the fact that if I can read it, I have to put glasses on sometimes, but if I can read the bulletins, I understand them. I can work them out, and you
have to do a little bit of work, but otherwise,
it's quite obvious, and we actually sang happy birthday to somebody in Portuguese
the other
day, and that felt like a massive milestone.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
But I guess what happens over time is just everything gets normalized, and obviously we've had a child here as well, or I gave birth to Solomon 5 years ago, And a bit like children when they learn languages, it takes the first 2 years to get used to the sounds before you start replicating the sounds.
Yeah.
And then, all of the phonetics go into your brain, within 2 years, you've got all of the different sounds in your head, it instinctively. I think it's like that. I remember the sort of rush of wanting to be able to pronounce everything. I really think when you first get here, you should actually just relax and just hear the sounds, just be out in Portugal, just enjoying yourself, and just notice it, but don't pressure yourself, because it will go in. It will go in over time. You'll just naturally pick up the phonetics.
I've just made a connection there. You're talking about, sort of mindfulness, meditativeness, and being in your body.
Yeah.
That the world of a young child is quite inward, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's this noise going on around you, which you ultimately probably make sense of and engage.
Well, your unconscious mind's picking it up all day long.
Yeah.
You're just not consciously aware of it.
Well, that's where I'm at. I think I'm like a toddler, or a child under 10 culturally still.
Yeah.
So people are talking around me, and it's not until someone says your name or is obviously pointing or shouting at you that you know what they're addressing you.
Well, that's the funny thing.
Like being a kid.
Yeah, but actually, I hear lots of people talking like about Louisa. Yeah. But like growing up, I never heard my name unless my parents are shouting at me.
Yes.
Because like Louisa's just not a name that is that common in the UK, but over here it's really common.
It is.
So I'm forever turning my head.
So talking of expats everywhere, even my wife thinks there are too many of me sometimes, says James.
Oh.
And expats, expat circle. Talking of the amount of expats here on the Silver Coast, that's the lunch tomorrow. I think there's still a little bit of time to book for that. Starter, main course, dessert, and coffee or tea. Storytellers Palace tomorrow, expat circle, and arrive at 12 for the Gatsby Bar gathering, and lunch at 1 o'clock in the Green Room restaurant. Again, if you're struggling to get in touch with them to book that, drop me a line and I can help you with that.
Who's Storytellers?
The Storytellers.
Okay,
Storytellers. Yeah. I think those
What's
modern
the expat
graphics.
circle?
It's the thing I used to do on a fourth Wednesday.
Oh,
it's been rebranded as instead of Carl's lunch, which always made it sound like I was for lunch. Carl '*S lunch. It's now the expat circle, which is probably a much better idea. Thank you, Owen, for these beautiful night sky pictures.
Beautiful.
The night sky for me has been tremendous as I've walked the dogs on the back lane. There's just something about this time of year, I suppose, isn't there? The crisp, cool night
look
air.
at the Dipper.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Like a shopping trolley, Big Dipper. What is that actually? Is that Orion? No. What is it? Orion's the one with the belt, isn't it? The dangly belt. What is this Big Dipper constellation officially known as? I'm sure it's not the Big Dipper.
I don't know.
And if you look up in the skies, a week today, me and the Portuguese are going to stay up all night and watch the American election coverage. And I think what's going to happen is we'll be on tonight at 7, and it'll be similar next week. We'll start in the evening of Tuesday, and I think I'm going to go all the way through to my morning show the next morning.
Really?
Will you bring me coffee occasionally?
I will. Yeah.
And watch the spectacle unfold
Spectacle
over
is an interesting
It is a
word.
spectacle, and I've written quite harshly about it in the Portugal Resident this week. My prediction for what's going to happen. Would you like to hear it? Or should I leave it hanging?
I think you're going to say nothing's going to change. It doesn't matter who gets in. Nothing.
I think it could
change.
be anything or nothing.
Anything or
just
nothing.
To make it really specific and focused there. Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, of course.
Thanks,
Gav. There we go, the Big Bear. Big Bear in the sky. Yes, the language, it will go in, but will it ever come out?
Well, that's the interesting thing, actually.
Yes.
Because I think it takes a while for it to start coming out, but then all of a sudden when it does, it's a surprise, isn't it? And you're like, oh, I didn't know I knew that. Yeah. So I think we hear it, like we get used to the sounds, and then we start recognizing the sounds. Because now I notice I understand a lot more spoken Portuguese, especially with Brazilians. Funnily enough, I understand Brazilians so much more, and I think it's because they say their words so with and they move their mouths so much more. I think it's a lot easier, isn't it? Yeah. It's much easier to lip read, isn't it?
Could help.
yeah, I do think it just comes out. And that's how children learn. I think the closer we can get to learning like children, the easier it is.
Yeah, very good. Manuel, good morning to you. Carl, may I ask if you have visited the city municipality of Porto Alegre? I recommended. Yes, you did, and it was one of our first Portuguese points of interest. This week it's Alcabasa, and I think maybe it was the first week we did it was Porto Alegre. And I know Coach Turner's been there. I haven't yet. I would love to go.
Where is that?
In the Alentejo.
Oh.
And for professional reasons, I can't normally attend GMP. In a sense that I hope you're busy rather than it seems unprofessional if you watch. I can't normally attend GMP, and you may have been there. I haven't, Manuel. I would really love to go. There's the beautiful tapestry museum, which I think you love, Mrs. M, as well. So we will go there at some point.
Lovely.
And an invitation, I think I'm going to take it as an invitation to Golgan this year as well. We know Barack is having a beautiful outfit made, a couple, I think. And are we going to be making it there? You've not been to Golgan, have you, where the horse fair takes place? I did take the kids there once upon a time and really loved it. Not being there.
Didn't you go on a tour with?
No, others have been on a tour with Philomena to Golgan. Yeah. I didn't make that one, sadly. And Darren's in as well. Good morning to you, Darren. People say Brazilian Portuguese is easier because of the pronunciation.
Darren, your logo matches my cushion.
Oh, wow. Logo twins. What a beautiful thing. There you go. Gumper dust on that. Right, I want to do a bit of news because George Branco, just to bring you up to date on some of the, here's something that's changed. When we came 7 years ago, I think the idea of riots in the capital would have been a bit shocking for us, right? So let's have a little bit of a look at that, courtesy of the excellent reporting of George Branco in just a moment. I think children express themselves verbally a lot more. That's right, and they're not so bothered until they get shouted at and humiliated about making mistakes, right? In the way that adults are. Adults wait until they have something to say, feel self-conscious, and often give up. That is the problem, isn't it? The whole point of the chat club is to practice speaking.
You do a chat club. That's great. Well done.
I can give you the WhatsApp address for that as well. Adults are usually far more embarrassed than children, absolutely, and so they should be. No, only kidding. Right, let's go to the George Branco coverage then, and just to let you know, if you're in any doubt about what's been happening in the capital, and it is a somewhat worrisome picture of what's going on there at the moment. Jack Polly also here. Bon dia.
Hi.
From the Polly's. Nice to see you the other evening as I was passing.
Yeah, and I saw you, mister.
And a Brazilian
in the shop on Sunday.
Oh yes, of course.
I had a lovely little chat.
Yeah, Brazilians pronounce all of the letters, and I also found making up silly sentences is fine. Yeah. Learning languages at school, yes, I'd make up the occasional silly sentence here as well. Learning languages.
I think that level of creativity is helpful because, like, you know, when I was living in France, I'd learned French at school, but I was really thrown in the deep end and working for a French company. Yep. And you when you start to, you know, try to describe things, it will be in a kind of long form. And, you know, like you might say, I don't know, like if you're talking about like a toilet brush or something, you might describe it as the brush that looks like a tree, you know, or you could find all these different creative ways.
That's what the Germans call it. Probably in a really long, elaborate word.
You know, that level of creativity that you're coming into, I think is actually how you end up learning a language, because you'll then hear back from people who might laugh or whatever and tell you the real word.
And come on, of all the people in the world, Portuguese people are great to speak to because they won't humiliate and look at you like you know, should be embarrassed, and
they've been really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely, and joining on the joke because they too have been through the process we're speaking about. Right, George Branco's news then, just so you know what's going on here. Police shoot Cape Verde man dead, prompting days of disturbances. That's what's been going on in the capital, and we'll lighten the mood after that with the minister who's praising health effects of wine and warns about the excessive consumption of water. Yes, Portugal. Right, on a serious note, though, police shoot Cape Verdean man dead, prompting days of disturbances. Hundreds of people have farewelled Ader Moniz, is the man in question here, who was shot dead by a police officer in an outer Lisbon suburb. And this is the Portuguese news in English. Thank you, George Branco, for your clear reporting on this. This was a Lisbon suburb prompting almost a week of unrest. Publico reports and his translation and bringing together of the news for us from various sources, including this one, Publico. The Cape Verdean 43-year-old was shot dead in the early hours of Monday morning in the Amadora neighborhood of Cova da Moura. Publico reports. Friends described the cafe owner as a peaceful man, liked and respected by everybody, and more likely to be a peacemaker or turn his back on conflict than be part of any confrontation. In reporting the death on Monday, police claimed after crashing into several cars, he had fled them and resisted arrest, threatening officers with a knife. The officer, who was indicted on suspicion of murder and placed on leave, fired 2 shots in the air and 2 at Monish's body. The officer says Munish didn't threaten him with a knife, but the PSP agent is said to have told the PJ investigative police. There are 3 police forces, of course, in Portugal: the GNR, the PSP, and the PJ. And to those PJ investigative police, he said that while Munish had a knife, he didn't threaten him or his partner. And that was from an Expresso report. CCTV footage of the confrontation is said to show the black man with 2 empty hands in the air, while the 22-year-old officer points the barrel of his gun in the air. Diario de Noticias reports, and this is a variety of news sources that George uses to bring together a picture for us in English here. But a justice source told the newspaper that there was a moment when Munish's arm went down and it wasn't possible to see what he was holding. A mid-sized knife was found at the scene. 4 witnesses told Publico they saw Munish resisting arrest, but that he was not violent and didn't have a knife. The 43-year-old, who'd been with friends in Cova de Moura, was said to have been returning there after driving to his nearby neighborhood of Bairro do Zambujal to get food. Police claimed they ordered him to stop after seeing him cross a solid white line, but instead he fled. Now, what followed then? Bins and vehicles burnt in days of disturbances. The shooting prompted days of disturbances across Lisbon's outer suburbs, which only began to calm down on Thursday night. Reuters reported in English, hooded assailants threw stones and set bins on fire again, but head of PSP police Luís Carrilho said the situation was finally calmer and thanked officers for their excellent work. Since last Monday, police have registered more than 100. Let me make that clear. Since last Monday, police have registered more than 100 disturbances in the Lisbon metropolitan area and arrested more than 20 people. That's from a Publico report. 7 people have been injured. A bus driver was hurt when the vehicle was set on fire in Santo Antonio do Cavaleiros. Perhaps the most disturbing of the scenes, a fire being a bus being set on fire, and the driver was taken to hospital in a serious condition from Louisa. And thousands rallied against the killing on Saturday to protest the father of 3's killing, Publico reported. Former MP and popular Cape Verde descendant singer Dino de Santiago were among those on a peaceful march organized by Vida Justa from Marcos de Pombal to Praça dos Restauradores. And they chanted "Oder forever" and called for the government to listen to their pleas for fairness, criticizing the police's serious lies. About 100 people gathered for a counter-protest organized by far-right party Chega in support of the police. Both marches went ahead without incident. And in writing about this is my comment, not George's. It's like we could be chastened and stunned by such things, couldn't we? But it just seems people now just jump straight on, the death of a man for their sort of ideological and political purposes. Bloke's barely, his body's barely cool, and people are just seizing upon him to promote their own particular agendas. Well, that's how it seems to me, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't heard that part of the story. I'd seen on Twitter that there were, like
again partial reporting of stories, right? You only see part of it. Don't you?
I'd seen that there were riots and all sorts of mayhem and mischief going on.
Yes.
But when I hear that part of the story,
yes,
that somebody's brother, father, son, husband,
yes,
or community, like friend, was killed. Maybe people feel like that's the only way that they can get attention. People might be feeling that could be happening to them too.
Indeed.
And hence why they're up in arms.
And this is why I think,
not justifying it, by the way, but
right. And the president, calling for calm, the elders of the community calling for calm to find out what happened before people's emotions are manipulated in this way. A far-right leader under investigation for comments. So, as you might imagine, Chega had their particular view on this, and leader Andre Ventura and 2 other party members are being investigated for comments they made about the shooting. Publico reports Ventura said the officer should be praised. An advisor said there was now 1 less criminal, And the party's parliamentary leader said, maybe if police shot more to kill, the country would be in order. That's pretty savage, isn't it? More than 123. Yikes. Yeah, it's chilling, isn't it? More than 123,000 people signed a separate criminal complaint over the comments, which was due to be delivered to prosecutors on Monday. That's from a Louisa report. Wow. So I don't like to be gloom and doom.
What I'm really hearing here is just that, we're living in times where people are really suspicious of each other.
Yep.
And the othering, like seeing everyone else as your enemy, or seeing everyone else as the reason why things aren't going well is endemic. It's really disturbing to hear that. That's why I'm quite happy that I don't hear the news that often.
Yes, and I hesitate to share such things, but I think this is of such a great import in our culture and where we live, that it is important that we get and I think this is good reporting, as reporting goes. It's pretty factual. It draws from a number of sources and gives you a picture of what's going on there as well. So thank you, George Branco, for that. And his kind of and now for something completely different story is Minister praises health effects of wine, warns of excess water. Experts have criticized Agriculture and Fishing Minister José Manuel Fernandes for talking up the health benefits of wine and warning of the danger of drinking too much water. This is from Publico. In an interview with TSF, he said, moderate wine consumption doesn't hurt. And us wine drinkers take a lot of comfort in that sentiment, do we not? Portuguese people do generally, I think, as some of the biggest, as in the greatest volume of wine drunk in the world per capita, and that people live longer when they drink red, green wine. Okay, of a common variety in parts of the north, because that's a Vinha Verde. Too much water also causes harm, he said. And this is where his sharing, I suppose, in his public education is perhaps a little bit questionable. I mean, anything in excess is going to be harmful.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like you could get poisoned by too much water. You can drown with too much water.
Yes.
Your body can't cope with it. I mean, you could wash all your minerals and vitamins away, I think.
Yes.
If you have too much water.
Okay. He said he was calling for moderation when it comes to water. His comments were in defense of his government's decision to not hike taxes on alcohol, soft drinks and tobacco. But experts said, while it used to be said that moderate alcohol consumption was good for you and even helped lower the risk of cardiovascular disease, that was no longer the case. George Branco, we're not reading your newsletter to find that out. Even moderate consumption of alcohol was associated with increased risk in various cancers and cardiovascular disease. Nutritionist and sack the researchers, nutritionist and Professor Rita Souza Santos said. Do you have anything to add to this, Mrs. You've recently given up drinking. You used to love a glass of wine, didn't you?
Yeah. I haven't drunk since April, so it's quite a while now, isn't it?
As in the month, not your friend. Right.
Since the month of April, since that April wine club where you, me and Pippi Longlegs got hammered.
Is that what did it?
Yes.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
And then I thought, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm fine. I actually prefer not drinking. I really much prefer not drinking. And then I go on a bit of a booze cruise for like months, sometimes years.
Yeah.
But I just find like life is easier and happier and yeah, I just feel much better without drinking. But I suspect that the real benefits of wine are from like naturally brewed wine, that don't have loads of preservatives in, and nitrates and things like that. I think the wine you pick up at the supermarket is really different to the wine that you might make.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's probably relative to how produced it is.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay. So a balanced view of alcohol.
Well, I mean, I think I like the tradition of ferments. Things that have been fermented.
Yes.
And the benefits, because like that's nature working on ingredients.
Yes.
And I think that kind of symbiosis is quite helpful.
Yeah.
But when you see industrialized wine, it's completely different.
Yeah,
it's just not done naturally.
Okay, all right. A point taken, Manuel. I mean, I can understand why Shager do get called the far right party, but when they're only called that, I think a further discussion is warranted. And we like such nuances on the Munson and the Geezer, which happens tonight at 7 o'clock. So we can go further into that in that environment tonight at 7 if you want to join us, Manuel. And as I say, next Tuesday, not Thursday, next Tuesday, of course, the big day in United States. Me and the Geezer will be on all night. And I have to say, I don't mean to diminish anyone's personal experience of the event, but we're looking at it from an entertainment point of view. When you ask the question, James, why would we do that? It is of great interest to us. And I think it will be largely from an entertainment point of view, because what else can you do given the state of things with that particular contest over there? I write further more about that in The Resident.
I think, when you look at mainstream media, they all work in collusion together.
Yeah.
So the mainstream media points that you hear in America are parroted in Portugal, with the Portuguese CNN, and in the UK as well. And across the world, there are more conservative, or as mainstream media say, far right institutions that are coming up and also having a voice. So this is something that's not really exclusive to America. I don't think it is happening worldwide. And so whilst I see that, old guy in Europe is saying not at all entertaining to me, I get that, James. I get that that's how you're feeling. But whatever is going on in America, I think, is likely to be reflected in Europe and the UK and the rest of the world as well.
And not for one moment.
And it's never been that close, is it? I don't think.
I
don't think the effects of America have been so closely aligned. But since it's almost as if everything started working in collaboration since the COVID narrative was launched back in 2020.
An interesting question at 3 minutes past 10. I'll pick that up tonight at 7 with the Geezer if we can stay on topic, which we generally can't.
The cultures have been, especially I was working with an Australian this morning. Australia, Canada, South Africa, the UK, Europe, America. It's like the main strongholds of the Western world have been working together very markedly.
I want to point out that me and the Portuguese, I mean, I can't speak for him, but certainly for my part in it, I'm not suggesting for one moment that as independent viewers and commentators on this, we are providing any objective balance.
Oh, crikey,
it is merely our opinions and views, and taking it apart to have a deeper look at it. But I don't think he would say this either, but certainly for me, I'm not suggesting any kind of worthiness about my reporting or view on it. As I say, it will be a rubbernecking thing mainly for me. I'm fascinated, I'm entertained, and I think it's really important to keep it in perspective as well. I mean, on a serious note, what we do in our daily social community lives here, I think, is far more important than the amount of attention we give to things that we can do very little about, which I think James would agree with me on there. And
yet American politics has reached us over here, hasn't it?
Well, it will do. That's the paradox, isn't it? I mean, it is the cutting edge of the collective Western empire in which we are part. I don't think it can't not be important in that sense.
Also, when you think in terms of expats, sorry, I know it's like gone 10, but when you look in terms of expats, expats tend to be people who are wanting something new and wanting something better for themselves. So they tend to be not necessarily the traditional centrists in terms of politics.
Do you think they might be more extreme then?
Yeah, right, because like people who are comfortable and contented with where they're living continue to live there.
Yes, it's interesting. Yeah.
Like, it takes a lot of stress and a lot of courage and a lot of energy to be able to move to another country where there's a different culture, different language, different money, different everything. And so it's the most adventurous and more full people that tend to move.
Yeah.
And so my experience of meeting Americans in Portugal and Brits in Portugal and like Canadians and all these lovely people that I've come to know over the last 7 years, I've noticed that they have got stronger in their political views.
Interesting.
Strong on both sides. And it's fascinating, but I think people that want change are often the ones that move.
I think you're right, and it's kind of it's fairly obvious when you think about it. But yes, it takes a sort of stronger sort of character in many ways, doesn't it? To up sticks.
It's what I noticed in astrology as well. Yeah. Like the strongest people and the ones that go through the most change have the biggest themes in their astrology.
Yes.
And they're the ones that live the more exciting lives.
Very interesting.
Again, expats.
Yeah. Okay. Collective empire. We are talking about. Well, this is how I see it, and I
what's the Borg?
As much no, I think he means like some sort of science fiction creation. That we have this. I'm calling it the empire, which immediately you hear the music in the background, don't you? Yeah. And we do live, I think, in the Western empire, such as it is, and in its particular state at the moment, is the Anglo-American European collective. And that's why, on one level, the American election is really important to see what goes on, because it's the cutting edge of that motif of the American dream and a particular kind of Western freedom that's at stake. And we're all subject to that and its consequences on one level. And on another, I understand why T-Duck wants to go to Spain for the day on election day, and why it's not entertainment for James. People with skin in the game, with family there, it will be different. And ultimately, it still comes back to our everyday experience, doesn't it? Which we've had all our lives, since being those little children who couldn't understand the language, to being keyed into what's going on, and then thinking, actually, I don't really want to know what's going on anymore when you get to a certain age. And that's why I think there is this paradox of it's really important and it's not important as well. But you find your way along that spectrum, and it changes from day to day and moment to moment as well, which is quite a difficult thing to contend with. Have you
got guests on your show next Tuesday?
We will have. We have guests lining up to join us. Yeah, and you're very welcome to come on the show and give your view on it. That's what it will be about. It will be a discussion. It will be an investigation of nuance. The strapline for our show every Tuesday night is it's not black and white, and we're happy to go there into the grey. And hopefully not get too upset about it or polarized or nasty with each other. In a bizarre way, it is somewhat comforting that there are relatively so few and infrequent situations here in Portugal, still sad and painful. Beautifully put, James. Thank you for that. What else is going on here? The Borg, actually, to answer your question, Mrs. M, was an alien race in the Star Trek, and that is exactly how some people see us, Barack, of course. Humming the Emperor's theme tune will get you copyright. Oh no! I have to go back and cut that bit out. Almost all media operating in Portugal are subservient to the EU's federalist and globalist project. Manuel, I find it difficult to disagree with you on that. Maybe for all this, I appreciate the great Nigel Farage so much, and that's probably a good point to close the show and take that conversation to tonight. Come back and talk with us about that and your love of the great Nigel Farage tonight, if you will, Manuel Ferreira. It's very interesting to see a Portuguese view on that. Portugal can be very friendly and welcoming, but you do have to be outgoing too, of course. I think and I think there's a little yes, and on that bombshell, James. No, we're not going yet, because we've got a God's God tip of the day. We are going to get Mrs. M. You're talking about getting back in the body. Here's a way of doing that and coming away from all that conceptual, mental stuff that tends to upset us. Coach Turner was in early doors at 7:49, collecting a granddaughter this morning who's coming for a sleepover. 6-year-old bundle of fun. It'll be lovely to see her, but Mrs. T and I might be tired tomorrow. I'm sure you will be. Yes. God's God tip of the day. Then interval training, now commonly known as fartlek. Thank you. Speed play in Swedish. I mean, can you imagine Swedish people saying that with a straight face? Can't you? I'm off to fartlek now. Nobody laughs. We do. It was developed in the early 20th century as a way to improve the performance of distance.
What does fartlek actually stand for?
Speed play.
No, but is it an acronym, or was it Mr. Fartlek?
No, I think it literally means speed play. Which word fart means, I don't know. Hopefully, Anna might be able to help us with this, but fart in Portuguese might mean speed, or it might mean play. I hope to. Well, either way, it's going to be awkward, isn't it? At times.
How so?
You're driving too fast, as in you're driving too fast. What is your fart? What is your speed? Or I'm going outside to play, and that translates as fart in Swedish.
Just going outside.
It's the best place to go as well. It involves alternating efforts of faster running, normally for 1 to 2 minutes, with recovery jogs. This uses the aerobic energy system at a level where lactic acid stays in balance with its removal. High-intensity interval training, which is the politer name for
HIIT
it.
training.
Yeah. Comprises shorter efforts of 20 to 30 seconds of maximum effort. Sounds like some of your love lives. So using both anaerobic and aerobic lactic energy systems, as I understand it, HIIT was developed by researchers as a way to improve overall health. A wide variety of regimes are now called HIIT, but in my experience, doing short efforts with a recovery that allows breathing to recover works best. Definitely involve breathing in your recovery, everybody. It's also not such a challenge so you are more likely to actually do it. We'll look at different types of HIITs tomorrow.
Isn't
the
it
HIITs continue.
Isn't it wonderful that Ian is still giving you,
awesome.
Coach Turner is still giving you your top tips
every day.
That's amazing.
He's a legend,
Thank
absolute
you.
legend of a bloke. And everybody who comes
Yeah.
here each day to make this what it is, thank you very much. Oh, okay, Antonio and the Ferreiras are kicking off in the chat here. Oh, the great liar, Nigel Fry. See, this is how what I love about Portuguese people. They'll be having a ding dong like that, and they'll still have a drink together.
That's really nice.
Teaching us an example.
I mean, this is what I'm expecting your show next week to be a bit like.
Oh, so Gals next Tuesday as well. So as well as a run up to next, this is what I've been chronicling in the Portugal Resident. Just so everybody knows, I'm not meaning to cause any alarm, but there's a great big darkness worshipping festival, aka Halloween. Yeah, isn't there? Is that the day after tomorrow?
What's the date today?
29th today.
Yeah.
And then we obviously got the run up to the American election. Yeah. And there's an earthquake test on the same day of the election.
Now, I'm a bit suspicious of these tests because.
Oh, no, don't go there right now.
Okay, I won't.
All right, okay. But yes.
But if you know what I'm talking about.
If you know, it's one of those, isn't it?
Where there's a test that happens to just come true. I can give 2 examples.
Yeah, we've got a budget in the UK as well, which I think is going to cause some acrimony and
well, it's also on the day of remember the 5th of November.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's quite the tinderbox.
Well, yes, and if you're interested in astrology, you'll hear my forecasts, which are talking this is a real deep change of the planetary activity is unlike anything I've ever seen.
Really?
And starting
not what we want to hear right
now for the next 9 months, the kind of planetary movements are unlike anything we've seen for over 1,000 years. So we are coming into a whole new time.
Yes.
Humanity, I don't think we can quite understand the changes we're about to go through.
Okay. Oh, earthquake machines as in human intervention. Oh my goodness, we're right can of worms is opening up now. Take it. But we can pick up any of these.
But this is why what you do at midday is really important.
What, to come back into your senses and your actual reality.
To reality, because we could get completely spaced out.
Well, people do. I mean, these are dark places and rabbit holes, aren't they? In which it's quite difficult to stay chipper and cheerful. Yeah. So balance is very important, and I would never hush any debate or discussion of such things, but I think it's really important to keep balanced as well. Don't worry, you can watch it on the replay here if you find that useful, which I think you do. So you're out picking olives again. Of course, that is a real thing, isn't it? Picking of the olives, getting your hands dirty, getting your hands
I mean, that can be a meditative experience, can't it?
And getting spaced out is highly underrated as well. Thank you, T-Duck. Thank you for those membership contributions. Thank you, Mrs. M from the Sofa Cam.
Do you know what? I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for the invite.
Okay, well, so a nice memory to take away with you. Please take your goodie bag, and our sponsors have created a little goodie bag of things for you to take away with you.
Such as?
In my dream world of how it might
being
be
an influencer.
As an influencer one day, yeah.
One day.
Okay. Oh, cheers, Darren. And a little drink for us there. Okay,
she'll
have a glass of water. I'll have a glass of beer. Cheers, Darren. Very nice of you. Okay, all the best. Bye for now. Enjoy this video. Don't go anywhere, because the outro video has some very beautiful images in it of Alcabasa and my first car, not the actual one, but the model. Have a great day, and we'll see you tonight at 7 if you care to join us for me and the geezer, or tomorrow morning for a slightly different Ask Anything About Portugal Wednesday, because it's a 5th Wednesday. We'll be with you again tomorrow morning. Thanks, Mrs. M.
Thank you so much. Bye.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.